Imagine being one of the most famous pastors in the world. You're not just leading a church, you're leading an empire. Millions of followers, a personal net worth in the tens of millions, and a lifestyle that looks more like a Hollywood celebrity than a preacher. For years, Joel Osteen was the smiling face of prosperity, preaching messages of hope, positivity, and wealth from the massive stage of Lakewood Church in Houston, Texas. His voice was on every television. His books were bestsellers, and his image was polished to perfection. But then, it all started to fall apart. Scandals, accusations, and shocking revelations have left many asking the same haunting question: will Pastor Joel Osteen ever work again? And if not, what does his life look like today? To understand Joel Osteen's dramatic fall from grace, we need to step back and remember just how high he once soared. Born in 1963 in Houston, Joel never planned on becoming a pastor. That was his father's role. John Osteen was the fiery preacher who built Lakewood Church from the ground up. Joel, meanwhile, preferred working behind the scenes, producing television programs for his father. He didn't like the spotlight, didn't want to be on stage, and certainly didn't imagine himself as one of the most famous pastors in America. But when his father died unexpectedly in 1999, Joel had no choice but to step up. He preached his very first sermon, and to everyone's surprise, people loved him. His gentle tone, constant smile, and uplifting messages were the perfect antidote for a new millennium audience. Within a few years, Lakewood exploded in size, moving into the former Compaq Center, an arena that could hold more than 16,000 people. Joel Osteen wasn't just a pastor anymore. He was a brand, but the higher you rise, the harder the fall. For years, whispers surrounded Osteen's ministry. Critics claimed his messages were shallow, all sugar and no substance. Others accused him of preaching a gospel of prosperity that promised wealth to those who gave generously. While he himself lived in a multi-million-dollar mansion, his net worth skyrocketed to an estimated $100 million, even though he famously claimed he no longer took a salary from the church. Instead, his fortune came from book deals, speaking engagements, and media appearances. To his followers, he was proof that faith and hard work brought blessings. But to his critics, he was just another televangelist cashing in on people's hopes. The cracks in his image became impossible to ignore in 2017, when Hurricane Harvey devastated Houston. As thousands of people lost their homes and sought shelter, eyes turned to Lakewood Church, the massive arena that could have easily housed hundreds in need. But for days, the church remained closed. Social media exploded with anger. Why wasn't Joel Osteen opening his doors? Why wasn't one of the largest churches in America helping? Photos circulated online, showing the church apparently untouched by The backlash was fierce. Under pressure, Osteen finally opened Lakewood to evacuees, but by then the damage was done. His reputation as a smiling symbol of compassion was shattered. For many, that was the moment Joel Osteen's true image was exposed, in it as a caring shepherd, but as a businessman protecting his empire. And then came more controversies. In 2021, headlines erupted when a plumber discovered envelopes filled with cash hidden inside the walls of Lakewood Church. Yes, you heard that right. A plumber, fixing a broken toilet, pulled out bags of money over $600,000 worth that had been reported missing years earlier. It was like something out of a crime thriller. The mystery of how the money got there and why it was hidden only deepened suspicions about Osteen's empire. The church denied wrongdoing, of course, but for the public, the scandal became another nail in the coffin of Joel's credibility. By this time, Joel Osteen's image as America's pastor was gone. His sermons were still broadcast, his church was still massive, but the respect and admiration that once defined his career had turned into ridicule, memes, and endless internet jokes. For younger generations especially, Joel became a symbol of everything wrong with modern religion: lavish wealth, hypocrisy, and a carefully crafted smile hiding uncomfortable truths. His television ratings slipped, his influence faded, and his once golden reputation became tarnished beyond repair. So what does Joel Osteen's life look like today? Well, it's complicated. On the surface, he's still incredibly wealthy. His mansion, a $10.5 million estate in the wealthy River Oaks neighborhood of Houston, stands as proof of his success. It's a property more fitting for a movie star than a pastor, with 6 bedrooms, multiple fireplaces, and a massive pool. He still preaches at Lakewood, which remains one of the largest churches in America, drawing thousands every week. But the difference is clear: he no longer holds the same cultural power he once did. He's not on the front pages, not topping bestseller lists, not invited to every talk show. For many, Joel Osteen is now a relic of a past era, a man whose time in the spotlight has run its course. And perhaps most telling is the silence around his future. There's no new vision, no major expansion, no sense of excitement about what's next. Instead, Joel Osteen seems to be in retreat, still wealthy, still smiling, but largely irrelevant to the broader conversation about faith and culture. His empire may continue, but his influence as a voice that shaped millions has dwindled. Whether he chooses to retire quietly or simply fade into the background, one thing is clear: Joel Osteen will never work again in the way he once did. His rise and fall stand as a dramatic reminder of how quickly the tides of fame, faith, and fortune can turn. It's a story that feels almost Shakespearean, a man who never wanted the spotlight, who stumbled into power, who built an empire on hope and positivity, only to be undone by controversy, wealth, and mistrust. Joel Osteen may still smile from the pulpit, but for many, that smile no longer carries the same meaning. And as the years pass, his life today looks less like that of a spiritual leader and more like that of a retired celebrity living in the shadow of his former glory. Disclaimer: the content in this video is based on publicly available information, media sources, and opinions. It is created for entertainment and educational purposes only. We do not claim or guarantee that every detail is 100% accurate. You don't need to make a significance, just as I did. Just a little bit by spend progressively less time with that individual. If you don't make a mistake, get rid of people in your life, and you'll never meet the appropriate people. While millions of people lost their jobs in 2020, silently, Joel Osteen's church accepted $4.40 from a government initiative meant for small firms who were having trouble. This wasn't an impoverished church pleading for aid. This was the biggest megachurch in America, with each bringing in about $90 million a year. When people learned, the reaction was immediate. However, the cash candle was only the start. Behind Osteen's well-known grin and optimistic, there is a tale of locked doors among the texts, critical emergencies, private family information, and a business plan that increased his value by $100 million. We're revealing today what actually occurs when trust turns into a lock. Osteen Joel Scott was born on Houston, Texas on March 5, 1963. He was one of 6 kids, raised in a household that lived the life of a church member. His John Osteen's father was formerly a pastor of a Southern Baptist church, but everything gutted in 1958 as Joel's sister, Lisa, has severe health issues from birth. John was severely shaken by that moment. He abandoned his previous behaviors and began preaching about miracles and healing. Only a year later, in 1959, John and his Dodie, the wife, founded Lakewood Church. Inside a former Houston feed shop. He had no desire to preach, who was calm, reserved, and enjoyed her job behind the scenes, particularly with. Following high school, he attended Oklahoma's Oral Roberts University to examine radio and television, but hadn't remained for long. In 1982, only 19 years, Joel, who was old, left and returned. House, but he wasn't lost. He possessed He turned on Lakewood's TV. Ministry from the ground up, operated everything on his own. He made the correct choice. Lighting, cameras, and even his attire. Father should dress every Sunday. Joel doing this for 17 years. As he sat on the stage, as his family stood there, returning, directing, editing, and creating. Certainly more people heard the message each week. Although he lacked a degree, he was creating something enormous. Everybody John Osteen was constantly asking him to preach. Joel consistently refused. You're the preacher, Daddy, I said, islandly, to make you appear good. However, everything. January 1999 saw a change. Joel at last said yes. On January 17, he delivered a sermon, his first sermon. He felt anxious and uncertain, but he went ahead. 6 days later, a horrible incident occurred. John Osteen passed away unexpectedly from a heart attack, 77 years old. Joel, that one sermon gave, ended up being the final one of his "Did Dad Ever Hear?" All at once, Joel was no longer just the man behind the camera. He was the sole remaining leader at the church. Joel, on June 7, 1999, Osteen formally assumed the role of senior Lakewood Church's pastor. He was without formal instruction, no degree from a seminary, and hardly little experience preaching. However, he had an additional item. He had observed his father for many years. He was able to communicate straight from the heart. He made no yells or warnings concerning hell. He discussed hope, being nice, and having faith in a better. His messages were straightforward and favorable. He grinned broadly. Individuals began referring to him as the smiling preacher. Critics claimed that he was taken enough that he didn't preach the truth gospel, but countless others believed he was just what they required. Under the leadership of Joel at Lakewood Church, the size of it exploded. When he assumed control, every week, roughly 8,000 people came. By 2004, that figure had increased to more than 25,000. Joel wasn't solely dependent on. He doubled the TV in the church, spent less, purchased more airtime, and placed up billboards. With his help, Lakewood became a national designation. However, they required more room. In 2003, he took a risk. Housed the church to assume control of the Compaq Center, as a huge arena located in Unbay. Games used to be held in Houston. That the church paid $12 for a 30-year lease, and decided to spend about $90 million to reconstruct the inside. That number was enormous, and a lot of individuals were startled, but Joel thought it was worthwhile. It took 15 months to complete the remodeling. They expanded the inside by 5 stories, filled the structure that houses offices, classrooms, and a cutting-edge broadcast studio. There were brand new and indoor waterfalls. There are carpets everywhere. In July of 2005, the doors were opened. July 16, 2005, Lakewood's first service took place in their new structure. It had 16,000 seats, and every seat was occupied. In the same year, the weekly attendance at the church passed 40,000 people watched their TV show. More than 100 nations. Joel's message was presently worldwide. By 2010, Lakewood had purchased it outright for $7.5 at the Compaq Center. Joel went on to make $1 million. He introduced SiriusXM, a 24-hour service. In 2014 radio program, his Night of Hope activities, stadium was packed. He turned become one of the world's most well-known pastors. His Your Best Life Now, a book, became a bestseller, with millions sold. He delivered sermons to more than 10 million people, only in the United States, every week, and his message remained unchanged. Give up off the past, have faith in God, and speak kindly things in your life, and anticipate. Joel Osteen in October 2004 published the book Your Best Life Right Now. Initially, it appeared to be just an additional self-help book featuring Christian concepts mingled. However, in just 3 months this had already occurred. By December 2004, sold more than 500,000 copies. Individuals were purchasing it more quickly than anticipated, and a Gold Book Award was given to it. Next, it surpassed 1 million sales in May 2005, and won the Platinum Book Award. What everyone was even more amazed by how long the New York Times continued to publish the book list of bestsellers. It stayed there for over 200 consecutive weeks, which is nearly 4 years in a row. That sort offering is incredibly uncommon, particularly for a writing his first book as a pastor. Above it sold over 4 million copies at the time. Worldwide. The book was straightforward but strong. It discussed remaining optimistic, faith-based, and believing in a more promising future. However, the message wasn't exclusively for churchgoers. Individuals from all it was picked up by backgrounds because it felt cozy and optimistic. Joel's method of the writing was informal and cordial, not preachy or difficult. That was beneficial to him. Reach others who might not have previously read our religious texts previously. Due to this book, Joel wasn't merely a best-selling writer. He turned into a renowned brand around the nation and globally. Additionally, he altered how Christian authors considered contacting larger audiences. However, what happened next shocked people even more. Many people believe Joel Osteen's fortune was a result of contributions to Lakewood, his church. However, that was only part of the story. Joel created a cautious choice to cease taking any paid by the church beginning in 2005. Rather, he concentrated on creating something larger. He transformed himself into a brand. He authored around 15 books, and 7 or more of them went on to become New York bestsellers in the Times. These books provided in the millions. A single book from Become a Better You Earned was released in 2005. He received almost $13 million in royalties alone and payments in advance. Joel, however, didn't stop there. He started giving live speeches. Occasions, frequently costing up to $100,000 or even $200,000 for each show. He filled basketball venues and stadiums. Usually there are concerts and games. Additionally included a variety of products ranging from CDs and books to online sales of apparel and presents are available. And at the enormous gift shop in Lakewood. On social media, Joel created enormous audiences through media. He possessed more than 25 million followers on 10 million on Twitter, Facebook, and 5 million more on Instagram. These platforms didn't only aid in the dissemination of his, they also provided him with a means of earning even more money by using sponsoring it outreach and content. Every single one of it added up. At this point, his projected fortune is $100 million. He developed a business plan where he could look modest and disengaged from money while silently establishing a media conglomerate behind the scene. Then Joel took everything in 2013 in a whole other way. Here began the Night of Hope tour, I believe. Rather than merely giving sermons at a church, he reserved seats at some of the largest arenas in America. These events weren't free. Tickets were purchased, often for they arrived in large numbers at about $15. One Miami's March 11, 2013. The event was packed with a venue for American Airlines, which hosts more than 20,000 individuals. Furthermore, this wasn't just a one-time event. The journey went on in cities such as Los Angeles, New York, and other. The arenas continued to fill up. He had taken Night of Hope in 2019. Abroad, selling out Wembley in London. The shows seemed more like big concerts as opposed to sermons. They had lights, music, stirring speeches, and just in 2017, Lakewood Church incurred $6.7 million to install theater. That demonstrates how enormous they has grown in size and profitability. Joel's ascent wasn't accidental. It resulted from meticulous preparation, particularly in relation to the media. Rather than restricting himself to Christian media, he pursued a more ambitious goal. He's seen on popular programs such as Oprah, Good Larry King Live, and Morning America. His Larry King interview in 2005 was a pivotal moment. It presented his uplifting message for millions of individuals all around America. He took a seat in 2012. Met Oprah once more and discussed that he received criticism for his sermons. Wealth, he gave a different explanation, claiming that all he wanted was for them to feel optimistic and see a better future. Hadn't discussed rigid religious. He spoke of happiness, becoming more powerful, and thinking that things would improve. This caused him to not merely a preacher. It turned him into an inspirational speaker who made an effort toward those who didn't attend church at all. Joel Osteen had no expectations peculiar the day he entered a jewelry store shop in 1985 in Houston. All he needed was a brand new watch battery. However, that his entire life was altered by a little errand. There was a young woman behind the counter called Victoria. There, she was employed while pursuing a degree in psychology at the Houston University. Joel was unaware then, but the watch saleswoman Beatrice would end up being his spouse, his companion in religion, and among the most strong women in American religion. Their wedding took place on April 4, 1987, only 2 years after that unanticipated sting together.